So, you want to get into Gundam, but with a series this old, where do you even start? The wiki is filled with series starting from 1979 and the timeline dates are all over the place. So you search up on some forums and suddenly everyone's talking about different timelines. Then you find it, the infamous Gundam timeline PNG, and it looks pretty damn insane. Future century? After Connolly? Anno Domi what? Post disaster? Okay, that one sounds a bit threatening. Yeah, it's a lot. Eventually, you find out it all starts with the Universal Century with Mobile Suit Gundam. But that came out in 1979, and you're not sure if you can handle animation from that era. And then you see there's a series called The Origins, which is clearly a prequel story, but it was made in 2015? What the hell's wrong with this series? Yeah, I get it. We've all been there. Gundam has one of the most complicated timelines in anime history, and today I'm gonna lay down some solid routes you can take getting into it. Whether you're a total newcomer or just trying to drag one of your friends into the fandom, this one's for you. Now with that out of the way, let's begin. Before we talk about routes, let me briefly explain the universe situation. In 1979, the first Gundam series launched, Mobile Suit Gundam. It takes place in a distant future where humanity has expanded into space, living in massive orbital colonies, expanding the essence of human consciousness. And naturally, with expansion comes conflict. War. The 1-year war sits at the center of this universe, a period of conflict where atrocities you could only imagine were committed. From there, the Universal Century grew into something massive. Stories told across generations, some taking place years before MSG and others decades after. Different anime, different casts, but the same universe running through all of it. As a newcomer, knowing where to step into all of that can be quite difficult, which is why Sunrise came up with alternate timelines, new stories with brand new characters, different galaxy-wide events, and no prior knowledge required. Each one has its own tone, its own themes, and its own way of doing things. Orphan child soldiers in space, or maybe a global mech fighting tournament, and even alien dragon robots? Don't worry, Gundam's got ya. These stories were designed to be accessible, and they ended up being some of the best entries into the whole franchise. For a lot of fans, they are also the bridge that eventually leads them into the UC. With that being said, let me start with my first suggestion for getting into the series. If you are new or trying to ease a friend in, my recommendation is to start with one of the alternate timelines. They are self-contained and you have modern options. And to top it off, you don't need any prior knowledge to enjoy them. Most run around 50 episodes, though some are shorter. My top 3 starting points are Gundam 00, Iron-Blooded Orphans, and Gundam Seed. 00 is about the advancement of humanity and the question of whether war can ever truly be ended. In this universe, the world has finally solved the issues of sustainable energy, yet people are still fighting over land, ideology, and religion. A secret organization called Celestial Being emerges with technology far beyond any nation on Earth, and they make a declaration that they will eradicate war. It's a series that holds a mirror up to our world more directly than almost any other Gundam series, and its approach to war and philosophy sits at the pinnacle of the franchise for me. And then there's the mechs, Exia, Dynamis, Virtue, some of the most iconic designs in the series, each one unique with their own specialized way of fighting. I don't want to spoil too much, but when you get to season 2, my boy 00 Gundam, whew, yeah, that's peanuts right there. What can I say? It's all enjoyable to watch. If you're a fan of Wing, 00 will feel very familiar in the best of ways. Next, if you want something emotional, character driven, and brutally grounded, Iron-Blooded Orphans may be the one for you. The series follows a group of child soldiers on Mars, treated as expendable by adults who profit from them. They have no rights, no future, putting yourself through dangerous works or death. Those are the 2 options. A young woman from Mars with political ties decides to travel to Earth to fight for the future of the Mars people. Thus he hires the young group of orphans, and they head on a relentless journey to Earth to seek a brighter future for themselves. What follows is one of the most raw and human stories told in the franchise. The mobile suit designs are incredible, the action brutal, and the story really does hit hard. Like, right in the feels. IBL doesn't soften anything. If you want a Gundam series that feels modern, intense, and very human, IBL is a fantastic starting point. And finally, out of the three, Gundam Seed. Even though it came out in the early 2000s, it holds up greatly. The animation and art style in HD still looks so clean. It's dramatic, emotional, and very character driven in the best tradition of the franchise. The story revolves around genetically enhanced humans called coordinators, who mainly live up in space colonies. As humans have moved into space, they started to genetically modify themselves to help improve survivability in the final frontier. Improved intellect, strength, reflexes, coordinators gain abilities to surpass the natural state of humankind. This led to tensions between them and regular humans, who call themselves naturals, who mainly live on Earth. Fear leads to a terror attack that tips everything out of whack. The terror attack on a colony with nukes killed millions by races who hated coordinators for tampering with their DNA, starting a massive war to erupt with seemingly no end in sight. Our protagonist Kira Yamato, who lived peacefully with his friends on a colony which had no affiliation with either side of the war, yet the war was brought to them regardless, leading to a journey filled with war and memorable emotional moments on the way. If you enjoy this one, you'll find it much easier to step into the UC later. Now the reason I recommend this one is because the story beats are quite similar to the UC, so it'll be easier for you to digest the flow and the format of the UC when you eventually get into it. Gundam Seed also has a sequel called Gundam Seed Destiny, which takes place a year after the main story. The series follows a new protagonist. You'll see a lot of the old cast again, so if you enjoyed Gundam Seed, I'd say it's worth checking out. Although some people aren't the biggest fan of Destiny due to certain reasons I won't spoil. But honestly, if you enjoyed Seed, it's worth a watch. There are plenty of other great old series, Gundam Wing, G Gundam, After All X, and The Witch from Mercury, but these three are the ones I'd highly recommend as your starting point. I'm also curious about all you lot. Which of the alternate series would you recommend? Drop down a comment down below and perhaps we'll talk about the highest rated in a future video. Also subscribe, drop a like, I love talking about Gundam and I'll keep on doing so into the future. At the end of the video, I have a little quiz for Gundam fans, so stick around for that. Now with that out of the way, let's get back on track. As I've stated, the UC is a bit of a mess when it comes to the timeline. Things were made in different parts of the timeline, so my main advice is do not watch it by release date. You'll be jumping across the timeline constantly, losing the thread of events, and wondering where your characters went. Trust me on this. Watching chronologically is better. Events flow into each other, and the universe makes sense as it builds. It is true, however, that the graphics, situation, and animation art style changing throughout series may be a bit jarring. The most I can say is just try to bear with it if you're really not enjoying the animation and art style of some of the older ones. For Mobile Suit Gundam and Zeta, however, there are movie versions, but those are more of a mix of new animations with largely being the old versions. I'd still recommend watching the series themselves, but if a shorter film version is more appealing to you, go for it. But there's also a way to watch in chronological order, and it comes with one important rule. Please, I beg you, skip Origins and Unicorn for now. Yeah, I know, Gundam fans are raging right now, about to blast me in the comments. But come on, hear me out. Origins and Unicorn are two of the most lore-rich and rewarding parts of the entire franchise. And that's exactly why you shouldn't watch them in chronological order. When you watch them in the order I'm gonna lay down to you guys, trust me, having seen the wars, the characters, the history, the payoff is extraordinary. If you watch Origin too early, you'll be doing yourself a disservice, truly. So save them, you'll thank me later. Well, with that being said, here's the order I'd recommend. Mobile Suit Gundam, the first to release, and starring the first ever Gundam pilot, Amuro, featuring the 1 year war and the rivalry with Char that sets the template for everything that's to follow. Yeah, it's from 1979, but trust me, it's awesome. The Amuro vs Char dynamic is the origin of Goku vs Vegeta. Don't sleep on it. Now time for some side stories that happens around the same time as MSG. 08th Mobile Suit Team, the most grounded Gundam in the franchise. A small crew fighting guerrilla warfare on Earth. It's a shorter series with great characters, and also a touch of romance. If you're into that, this one may be for you. It's a great series and a fan favorite. Gundam Thunderbolt. 2 movies set during a brutal battle in a debris field. It has incredible style, real dramatic tension, and one of the best soundtracks in the series. Highly recommended. Unfortunately, we're still waiting on the final movie in the trilogy. Hopefully, we'll get one day soon. Just a note, Thunderbolt is actually set in an alternative UC era, so it's not technically canon to the UC, but the events line up somewhat, so I still think it's worth it. War in a Pocket. A short series following a kid named Alfred who gets caught up in a mobile suit battle in his colony. This one is so heartwarming, but sadly in Gundam, things don't always go to plan. Honestly, it's an amazing watch, worth your time. These 3 run parallel to MSG in the timeline, so the order between them doesn't really matter much. They're side stories, so you can technically skip them, but honestly, they're all so great. A couple of other optional entries is Cuckoo Ruse Duran's Island. I never know if I'm saying that right, which stars Amuro. It's kind of random, but it's fun and wholesome. Always nice to see young Amuro once again. And then there's Gundam Requiem for Vengeance, a CGI series on Netflix. Surprisingly, it's very good, and notably follows a Zeon crew for a change. It's nice to see things from the quote-unquote bad guy's point of view. Next we have Stardust Memory, a prelude to Zeta, following the remnants of Zeon forces seeking revenge. It's pretty decent, with a few plot issues. Not essential to watch before Zeta, but if you want more context for how things got to the way they were, from MSG to Zeta, this one will fill in some blanks. The follow-up to MSG, and one of the fan favorites in old Gundam for a reason, Gundam Zeta. Here we have a new protagonist, Camille Badan, who kinda got forced into war, I guess? Well, technically he volunteered. Anyway, here, a new group called the Titans have grown quite large in power within the Earth Federation. They are very tyrannical, oppressing others who don't align with their views. A fraction called the Aeug rises to challenge them, which leads to great stories and emotional moments. You really feel the consequences of war when it comes to Zeta. And then we have Gundam Double Zeta. Honest opinion, this one took me about 4 attempts to get past the first episode. The tone is more humorous, and the storytelling, character design have changed from Zeta. It doesn't click for me in the same way the rest of the UC does. It adds very little to the overall story, to be honest. But if you want to give it a try, go ahead. And if it doesn't work for you, you can skip it. It won't cost you anything. And it also doesn't add much into the next entry anyway. Okay, this one's a big one, Char's Counterattack. A film featuring Char and Amuro, and a landmark moment for the UC, taking their rivalry to a conclusion. And honestly guys, it's awesome. Go into this one as fresh as possible. The more times I've watched it, the better it gets. Now after Char's Counterattack, you can finally watch the origin. It's the perfect time. This one is the backstory for Char Aznavour, from childhood to the start of MSG, and it's truly stunning. The detail, the care, the way it fills in the history of the 1 year war. Certain scenes, knowing everything you know now, will hit differently than they ever could if you watched it earlier on. I could rewatch this one every year. Char is an awesome character, and it's so amazing to see more of his history, his roots, and how he got to where he was in the start of MSG. Honestly guys, it's a must watch. And then from here you can go into the next one, Gundam Unicorn. Unicorn functions as closing a chapter on the Universal Century up to this point, following Benaja Lynx, as he uncovers a secret that could explain the roots of everything that went wrong in the UC and what we've been building towards since the start. It's a love letter to the franchise, humble, beautiful, and truly touches the heart. Available in either movie format or episodic as well. Twilight Access. It's quite a short one, with episodes of about 4 to 6 minutes I think, following 2 former Zeon engineers. It has good atmosphere, but nothing really essential. Can be skipped without missing any important parts. Gundam Narrative, a direct sequel to Unicorn, and is a very interesting movie. I don't think I can say much without spoiling Unicorn and this one, but it's heavily tied to the concept of new types and what comes after the events of Unicorn, and it's filled with more Gundam goodness. Give it a go if you enjoyed Unicorn. Halfway, currently a 3-part film series with 2 parts released so far, with the 3rd confirmed, following Halfway Noah, the son of MSG's Bright Noah, picking up threads from Char's Counterattack. The art style and animation is the best we've ever seen to date in Gundam. It has great tension and a very unique cast of characters. So far, the story is very rewarding for those who have seen the full journey of the UC. Even though I personally have beef with Halfway, which we'll get into eventually one day, it's definitely a great watch. I highly recommend. F91 Gundam. Set 60 years after MSG, the Earth Federation has grown quite bloated and ineffective, and a new aristocratic faction, the Crossbone Vanguard, rises to fill the vacuum. It was originally planned to be a full series, but got compressed into a film, and it shows in many places. It's still worth a watch, especially for the tech evolution it shows in the timeline. And then lastly, in the UC, the furthest point, Gundam Victory. Another 30 years beyond F91. The Earth Federation is barely holding together, and a theocratic military empire, Zanskar, is expanding through sheer force and terror. Caught in the middle, Yuso Erin, the youngest Gundam protagonist in the franchise. And I gotta say, he's actually one of my favorites. Victory is bleak, relentless, and unflinching. Episode by episode, you'll be on the edge wondering what tragedy will strike next. Even though Victory does have its issues, it's pretty good. One day, I plan on doing a deeper dive into it. Now, even though Victory and F91 Gundam are good watches, and I do recommend you give them a try, they're not really necessary for the main storyline which is being told throughout the UC. They are quite separated from the rest of the story, so that's why I say they're optional. If you guys have reached to this point and you figure, hey, I want to watch something else, go ahead, give them a watch. I'm pretty sure you'll enjoy them, but there are no other stories surrounding them for you guys to enjoy. F91 is pretty secluded, at least in animation, and Victory also. I've heard a lot when it comes to F91 and the manga around the Crossbone Vanguard, but apart from that, if you want to watch it in animation, these two are quite secluded for now. Emphasis on that, because who knows, eventually we may get more. And with that, we're done with the UC. I hope that helps you find your way, or helps you convince someone else to make the jump. If there's a series you'd recommend as a starting point or personal favorite in the UC, drop it down in the comments. I'd like to know, so hit me up. There are a couple of other series I didn't talk about, mostly because they're either VR or some weird CGI that's really hard to get a hold of, like Gundam Igloo or G Savior, which is like a live action movie. And obviously there's the Build Fighter and Build Driver. I haven't talked about those, mostly because I haven't watched them yet. I've mostly stuck to the other series in the Gundam universe, but once I get around to them, I'll let you guys know my opinion on those. But these are my main opinions on how you can get into Gundam or get someone, one of your friends. Oh yeah, don't forget to subscribe, drop a like, and let me know your answer for today's question. What was the color of Char's first non-red mobile suit, and what was the name? Drop your answer below and we'll talk about it at the end of next episode. Anyway, with that, we're done. I'll catch you next time. Nova Gundam launching.